Hare Krishna, one and all, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we include the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, in all seriousness, in the collection of Srila Prabhupada's books, because he told us in writing, in his Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we must read this book. And Gopiparanadhana Prabhu, in all loyalty and humility and deep knowledge of both Sanskrit and English and the culture of Krishna consciousness, as a great Brahmana, has done this work magnificently. Yes. As my dear godbrother Devamrita Maharaj says, who was a great scholar in his own right, this book is the gold standard for English. Yeah. Okay. Right here in Nilachal, the home of the Raos, Chakradhari, Rajalakshmi, what's your name again? Govinda, Gauranga Madhava. Gauranga Madhava, and Hari Leela, Hari Krishna. Okay, we start off as we do every day, reading the Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, more like reciting, from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatana Goswami. His idea was to write, or to offer, rather, 108 obeisances to the Vrindavan Lila of Krishna. And so every few verses, and they're very succinct, vocative, simple Sanskrit, meant to increase or assist us in our meditation on the pastimes. And he got to the 107th, and that's the Krishna Lila Stava, just before he ended the book, glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, the source of knowledge of Krishna's pastimes. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. I'll repeat that again. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Why not read the Bhagavatam? Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. It's a literary incarnation of God, the Bhagavatam. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Man Nistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin atini chochatakada hanamun jagadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're getting to the end of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. I mean, we still have some ways to go, but we're getting close to the end. 7th chapter, second part. Parikshit Maharaj has finished the epic journeys of Narada Muni and Gopakumar, and now we turn to the ecstasy of the selected verses from Srimad Bhagavatam that describe the glories of the Brajavasis and the holy Vrindavan Dham in the spiritual world. We're starting with text 133, which is the verse which begins the glories of the gopis, the Vrindavan. The young gopis took the greatest pleasure in seeing Govinda come home, since for them even a moment without his association seemed like 100 ages. Commentary. In text 133 through 152, Parikshit Maharaj praises the supremely glorious gopis. He begins by quoting this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:19-16, in which Sri Badarayani describes the gopis' ecstasy at seeing Krishna return home in the evening after saving his friends from a fire in the Munja forest. Just to catch a glimpse of Govinda would raise all the gopis to the highest limit of ecstasy. Who can describe then what they felt later when they enjoyed talks and various sports with him? If for even the shortest time they couldn't see Krishna, to them that small portion of the day would seem like 100 yugas. In their own words, when you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us, because we cannot see you, and even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its ornament of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. Bhagavatam 10:31-15. Of course, the days spent without Krishna didn't literally last hundreds of yugas, but as indicated by the word eva, such was the gopis' subjective experience while in the pain and anxiety of separation. And it makes perfect sense that these same gopis who would suffer intensely from a moment's separation from Krishna would conversely enjoy the topmost bliss from but a moment's sight of him. Though the gopis passed every day with such ecstasies, the description given here is especially appropriate for the day Krishna saved his cowherd friends from the fire in the Munja forest, because on that same day he saved his girlfriends from the forest fire of Viraha Bhav in their hearts. Text 134. Their minds absorbed in thoughts of him, they conversed about him, acted out his pastimes, and felt themselves filled with his presence. They completely forgot about their homes as they loudly sang the glories of Krishna's transcendental qualities. Commentary. This verse, Bhagavatam 10:30-43, describes how the force of love for Krishna made the gopis forget everything else. At the beginning of the rasa dance, when Krishna disappeared, leaving the gopis in total distress, they searched everywhere but couldn't find him. By the time they gave up their search, they had wandered far into the thickest part of the forest, where even the light of the autumn moon couldn't go. Under these circumstances, one would have expected them to go home in disappointment. But they couldn't even remember that they had homes. In this condition, instead of complaining about Krishna's cruelty, the surrendered gopis continued to sing his glories. All their faculties were fixed on him. Their power of speech, their minds, with which they could only accept him, never reject him, their power of speech, by which they called out plaintively to him and performed his sankirtan, and their other working senses, by which they made garlands and beds from flowers and leaves. Mind, body, and words, the gopis were fully absorbed in Krishna. Their whole existence was dedicated to him. Even at home, the gopis were so focused on Krishna in thought, word, and deed that they went around their household duties oblivious of what was going on around them. Now that they were outside, why should they give any thought to their homes? Abandoned by Krishna in the forest, in the midst of the night, they simply went on chanting his glories. Another meaning of the words tan manaskas tadalabhas tadvichetash tadatmikaha is that in the anxiety of separation, the gopis became so intense in their remembrance of Krishna, the enthusiastic enjoyer of wonderful pastimes, that they began to assume the unique characteristics of his personality. Their minds, just like his, became free from fear and suffering. Their speech became grave, articulate, and charming, just like his. They started to behave just like him, embracing and kissing one another. Their bodies even appeared like his, as they emulated his threefold bending posture. But unlike impersonal yogis who forget devotion to God as they begin to develop his qualities, the gopis only increased in their natural devotion to Krishna more and more, and they went on singing his glories. In this utter absorption in Krishna, they forgot themselves, what to speak of the homes and other things they were meant to enjoy. Text 135. What austerities must the gopis have performed? With their eyes, they always drink the nectar of Lord Krishna's form, which is the essence of loveliness and is not to be equaled or surpassed. That loveliness is the only abode of beauty, fame, and opulence. It is self-perfect, ever fresh, and extremely rare. Commentary. Text 135 through 137, Bhagavatam 10:44, 14 through 16, are spoken by the women of Mathura who watch Krishna as he enters Kamsa's arena to wrestle with Chanura. The ladies of Mathura praise the gopis of Vrindavan because the gopis can always enjoy seeing Krishna and chanting his glories in all circumstances. First, the ladies praise the gopis for being always able to see the beauty of Krishna's transcendental form. The Vedic scriptures explain various benefits to be gained by a variety of disciplines, but the women of Mathura have never heard of anyone receiving such a benefit as bestowed upon the gopis. What penances, religious duties, or meditation could enable one to attain such perfection? What tapas could the gopis of Braja have performed to earn the privilege of drinking Krishna's beauty with their mortal eyes, directly relishing his beauty the way one relishes nectar with the tongue? Out of reverence for Krishna, at this moment the city women cannot utter his name, but can only refer to the son of Nanda as him. According to the description of the Mathura women, Krishna is the most charming of persons. Indeed, he embodies the very essence of charm. Even those who consider him an avatar of Vishnu cannot find any avatar equal to him. And persons who know that he is in fact the source of all avatars can understand that no one is greater. Moreover, his supreme excellence is not created by anyone or anything else. His excellence is not lent to him by his ornaments. It is innately his own. As Sri Uddhava states in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2.12, the Lord, by his internal potency, Yogamaya, appeared in the mortal world in his eternal form, just suitable for his pastimes. Those pastimes were wondrous for all, even for those who were proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. Bhusha Bhushan Ganam. Ananya Siddham can also be understood in another way, as meaning that these excellence of Krishna are not realized anywhere else but in Braja. Furthermore, persons who taste Krishna's glories are never satiated. Rather, they always experience those glories as newer and newer at every moment. As the poet Magha says, Chane chane yan navatam upayiti tat eva rupam ramani yatayaha. The true form of attractiveness is that which appears newer at every moment. Therefore, the full glories of Krishna are very difficult to realize. Other than the gopis, no one can ever expect to know them directly. And only the gopis have Krishna completely under their control. Krishna is the most charming of persons, and he possesses all supreme qualities. He is the only constant reservoir of fame, splendor, and the 6 divine opulences indicated by the word Bhagavan. Thus, both his form and his personality are in all ways supremely attractive. In stating that the gopis of Braja always enjoy the sight of Krishna's beauty, the women speaking in the wrestling arena use the present tense, pibanti. By this they mean to say that the beauty of Krishna never actually abandons the gopis, for the gopis never fail to see him even when he is physically absent. The gopis are the most fortunate of women. We ladies of Mathura are not at all pious, because we can see him only at inauspicious times and places. There is no chance of our ever drinking the nectar of his beauty with the same love and respect as the gopis. Text 136. The ladies of Braja are the most fortunate of women. Their minds fully attached to Krishna, their throats always choked with tears. They constantly sing about him while milking the cows, winnowing grain, churning butter, gathering cow dung for fuel, riding on swings, caring for their crying babies, sprinkling the ground with water, cleaning their houses, and so on. Their minds are fixed on Krishna alone. Commentary. Even if in the course of Krishna's infinitely varied pastimes, the gopis are sometimes unable to see that most clever Krishna, they can remain submerged. They can remain submerged in an ocean of transcendental pleasure by chanting his glories. The gopis do not engage in sankirtan only when circumstances are conducive. When performing special services for him, like making garlands. They chant his names and glories always, in all situations. While describing the autumn rasa dance, Parashara Muni says in the Vishnu Purana 55, 15, 52, and 56, Krishna sang about the autumn moon and its light upon the lotus ponds, while the gopis simply sang Krishna's name over and over again. While Krishna sang a rasa dance song in a resonant voice, the gopis congratulated him and redoubled their chanting of Krishna, Krishna. In the verse Parikshit Maharaj recites here, the phrase Vrajastriya, the women of Braja, indicates not just the gopis, but also women who live in the forest. The city ladies who are speaking are not careful to distinguish between the gopis of Nanda's community and the other women of Braja, who are mostly aborigines. All the women who come in contact with Krishna in the forest, whether children, young girls, or old women, become rich in the highest favor of the goddess of fortune. And only the women of Braja have this kind of excellent luck, not the women of any other place. Why are the women of Braja so fortunate? Because they always engage in Krishna Sankirtan, no matter what else they do. They sing while they milk the cows and churn butter for their husbands and children, while they apply kumkum, chandan, and other cosmetics to their bodies, while they swing on swings, while they comfort their babies, while they clean their houses with water and cow dung. They sing Krishna's names while cooking, grinding grains, smearing the courtyards with auspicious pastes, and beautifying the walls of their houses with painted designs. Thus the gopis' unavoidable duties in taking care of their families and maintaining their own bodies do not at all obstruct the ecstasy the gopis feel in worshipping Krishna. Rather, these contribute to it by giving suitable occasions for Sankirtan. The gopis are so absorbed in Krishna's glories that they are hardly aware of the effort they expend while working. And so intense is their singing that they actually see Krishna. Either by the power of meditation, they see him in their hearts as he plays all around Brajabhumi, or else they make excuses to take their work out into the pastures and so directly see him playing there. Sometimes the presence of their elders makes them too shy to sing about Krishna, and then they fly to where Krishna is by the inner vehicle of their minds. Helplessly attracted by the power of Lord Urukrama, who intrudes by stealth into the minds of his best devotees. As the gopis chant about Krishna, their minds are more and more attracted to him, and gradually they are unable to think coherently about anything else. Shedding tears of love, they sob uncontrollably, and their hearts go swiftly, urukramena, to join Krishna, wherever he is. In short, they are the most fortunate of women because they always see Krishna, always chant his glories, always think about him, and always feel completely attracted to him in pure love. The words Anurakta Diyo Shu Kantya, which describe how the gopis sing, can be understood to be a response to the following doubt. Isn't it true that a woman does what she does only because she is attracted to doing it? The gopis must have some attraction for household work. Otherwise, why would they be so busy doing it? How then can they be said to be merged totally, exclusively in love for Krishna? The Mathura women respond by commenting that such symptoms as tears in the eyes prove that the gopis' minds are full of loving attraction for Krishna. The gopis do their household duties only for his sake. But then another doubt may arise. But then another doubt might arise. With such distracted minds, how could the gopis maintain their bodies and fulfill their family responsibilities? The answer is that Krishna is Urukrama, the Supreme Lord, who possesses amazing energies and accomplishes wonderful feats. The gopis, by fixing their hearts on him, are easily able to carry out all their duties and obtain whatever is needed. Even though the gopis think only of Krishna to the exclusion of everything else, they are free from anxiety over the many duties they are obliged to fulfill. Everything they do is for his satisfaction, so they can do everything expertly simply by the force of Krishna consciousness. This verse also describes the gopis singing about Krishna as most prominent. Their remembrance and visions of him come as natural consequences of this primary service of singing his glories. Therefore, the gopis meditating on Krishna and envisioning him are not explicitly mentioned. The ladies of Mathura conclude, these women alone are the most fortunate, and in ways for which we can never aspire. How sad. Text 137. When the young gopis hear Krishna playing his flute as he leaves Braja in the morning with his cows, or returns with them at sunset, they quickly come out of their houses to see him. They must have performed many pious activities to be able to see him as he walks on the road, his smiling face mercifully glancing upon him. Commentary. We ladies of Mathura may also have the privilege of seeing Krishna in all his glory, and we too may be able to glorify him in Sankirtan while we engage in our activities, at least after he kills Kamsa and remains here with us. But the experience will never be the same for us as for the gopis of Braja. Only they can watch Krishna in the morning as he leaves for the forest, and in the evening as he returns home. Only they can see him surrounded by his cows and his cowherd friends. As soon as the gopis hear his flute, they come outside, onto the road on which he will walk. They may be powerless women, abala, devoid of independent strength, but still they are the most fortunate and pious of human beings. When Krishna comes into view, the gopis not only see him, but also hear his flute song and the jingling of his foot bells as he walks with the grace of a skilled dancer. Krishna's face is always adorned with merciful glances, and no one ever sees it not smiling. The gopis, however, even while gazing on Krishna's beauty, are in anxiety because they know that he will soon be out of sight. What is so fortunate about seeing Krishna go off to the forest? What is so auspicious about being left in the anguish of separation? In fact, however, anything in connection with Krishna is auspicious, even when it superficially appears to be a cause for suffering. The gopis may see him leave in the morning, but they also see him return in the late afternoon. Having languished in their homes during the day, like lotuses almost dead from being overexposed to sunlight, the gopis rush out of their houses as soon as the nectar of Krishna's flute song enters their ears. Each time they see Krishna is like a festival for them. Every morning they make various excuses to come early to Mother Yashoda's house to see Krishna and follow him as he leaves for the forest. They are completely absorbed, morning and evening, in meditating on how to get out of their houses to be near Krishna. But when they hear him playing his flute, they at once run outside, for the sound of the flute arouses in them the urges of Cupid, rendering them helpless and weak, abalaha. As repeatedly explained in the Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta, the gopis receive the greatest mercy of the personality of Godhead when they are immersed in the mood of separation. Nonetheless, the women of Mathura limit themselves to describing the ecstasy of seeing Krishna, because the sublime subject of the gopis' feelings of separation is beyond their grasp. And they dare not even mention the supreme glories of Krishna's Rasa Lila, since the wonder of merely seeing Krishna is difficult for the Mathura women to describe. What can they tell about the gopis' greatest fortune? Being able to dance with Krishna in the Rasa Lila. The Mathura women lament, because our stock of pious credits is so meager, we will never be able to see Krishna in this same way. Text 138. I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are very difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. Commentary. This verse, Bhagavatam 10:32-22, describes the most exalted position of the gopis, earned by their pure love for the personality of Godhead. When Krishna suddenly disappeared at the beginning of the rasa dance, the gopis cried in great pain, but when he reappeared, sat comfortably in their midst and attended and listened to their eager questions. The present verse is Krishna's answer to those questions. Text 138 to 146 tell of the Supreme Lord's special love for the gopis. In these 9 verses, the Lord himself, from his own lotus mouth, explains this wonderful aspect of his own glories. The gopis are faultless in their love for Krishna. Neglecting all considerations other than making him happy, they submerge their minds in thoughts of him, in spotless prema. Surely, these girls should not be criticized for approaching Krishna with lust, even though followers of the Smriti Shastras may want to criticize them. Their lust for Krishna is in fact a great virtue, since it is the cause of their faultless association with him. As previously shown in this book, the gopis' attraction to Krishna is an exceptional development of their fully matured love of God. In fact, Krishna considers himself unable to repay the gopis for their devotion, even in a lifetime of the intelligent demigods or sages, or the supremely intelligent Lord Brahma. If we read swasadu krityam to mean proper compensation, the Lord says that he is unable to repay the gopis for their devotion. And if we read it alternatively to mean one's own saintly behavior, the Lord says that he cannot act with the same exceptionally saintly devotion for them as they have for him. Krishna is amazed by how strongly committed to him the gopis are. They have cut the insurmountable knots of attachment to home and husband and children, and the multitude of duties centered on them. Severing these attachments, the gopis have worshipped Krishna fully, whereas Krishna, because he has ties of love to so many devotees, feels he can never be as exclusively dedicated. Therefore, he can only suggest to the gopis that their own saintliness might repay his debt to them. There is nothing he can do in kind to reciprocate. Dividing the phrase swasadu krityam differently yields yet another understanding, su asadu krityam, which changes to swasadu krityam, meaning very unvirtuous acts. Thus, Krishna indicates that even the things the gopis do that lack virtue, such as behaving cruelly toward him, are glorious. Even those acts, Krishna suggests, contribute to absolving his debt. So what then of the pious things the gopis do? Krishna says this to the gopis out of greed to enjoy with them in all situations, no matter how they treat him. Unfortunately, Krishna cannot properly repay to the gopis. Unfortunately, Krishna cannot properly repay the service of the gopis who have offered him their faultless bodies, nirvadya samyujam. Krishna is encumbered by various household duties of his own, like his constant duty to tend the cows. He cannot abandon his responsibilities and serve the gopis properly, ma bhajan. And Krishna's other obligations are unbreakable, durjayaha, like strong metal chains, shrinkalaha. As implied by the prefix sam, completely, in the word samrishya, completely cutting off, Krishna might be able to put aside his inner attachment to these other engagements, but he cannot avoid being extremely involved in them. Krishna thinks that unless he offers himself to the gopis completely, as they have offered themselves to him, unless he worships them in absolutely exclusive devotion, disregarding everything else, he cannot requite their love. He remains in debt because in his dealings with them, he has broken his vow he made in Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Yayatamam prapadyante tang stataiva bhajamyaham. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. In all humility, Krishna sweetly requests the gopis that for their saintly behavior, they agree to be repaid by their own saintly qualities, sadhuna. Or, if we take the word sadhuna to mean by a saintly devotee, Krishna suggests that although he himself cannot reciprocate adequately, perhaps in the future, some of his devotees will become followers of the gopis and serve them faithfully. Text 139. Dear gentle Uddhava, go to Braja and give pleasure to our parents, and also relieve the gopis suffering in separation from me by giving them my message. Commentary. Texts 139 through 146 were spoken by Sri Krishna to his dear servant and best of advisors, Uddhava. What we say about another person when that person is absent usually indicates our true feelings more reliably than what we say in his presence. Therefore, Krishna's confidential statements to Uddhava about the gopis confirm that Krishna does indeed feel as indebted to them as he claimed while speaking with them. Krishna wanted to do what would most help the gopis obtain his full mercy. So instead of going to Vrindavan himself, he dispatched Uddhava. He hoped that the message Uddhava was to convey would pacify the Brajbasis, whose feelings of separation were burning them like an uncontrollable forest fire. Krishna's message was meant to sprinkle on them the nectar of his company and give them some hope that they might see him again. This verse and the three that follow come from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10:46, 3 through 6. In the first half of this verse, Krishna follows the way of ordinary dealings by asking Uddhava to console his mother and father. In the second half, he directs Uddhava to give special attention to the gopis. The name Uddhava means festival. So by using this name, Krishna implies that by just meeting Uddhava, the Brajbasis should feel very much encouraged. And Krishna refers to himself by using the plural pronoun naha, either because he feels proud, and it just stopped on me. Isn't that interesting? Oh, Krishna, what am I supposed to do? Oh, thanks. You are so good. Either become sorry, my computer somehow or other just stopped responding. Oh, I just got it back, I think. No. Isn't that strange? Okay. The name Uddhava means festival. So by using this name, Krishna implies that just by meeting Uddhava, the Brajbasis should feel very much encouraged. And Krishna refers to himself by using the plural pronoun naha, either because he feels proud to be the son of Nanda and Yashoda, or else because he thinks that since Nanda and Yashoda accept Balarama also as their son, they should accept Uddhava the same way. Surely Uddhava deserves this treatment, but he is amply endowed with saintly humility and with pure devotion for Krishna. So he should give Nanda and Yashoda great satisfaction by his uncontrived skill in delivering Krishna's message. Uddhava is Somya, very mild by nature. Or else Somya indicates that since Uddhava is as beautiful as the moon, Soma, Nanda and Yashoda will be very much pleased just by seeing him. To pacify the gopis, however, will require more than merely Uddhava's finesse. The gopis feel the pain of separation from Krishna so deeply that to relieve them, his own words must be conveyed. Or else Krishna is saying that nothing else than his own words, with their pleasing tone and special connotations, will pacify both his parents and the gopis. Since, though by hearing the message, his mother and father will become happy, the gopis will feel only limited relief. So great is their love for him that they can never feel content in his absence. Hare Krishna. We'll stop there. at text 140. So this is intense, to say the least. You know, this same thing happened to Giri Hari Maharaj just the other day. I think it's contagious. There we are again. We're in 140, right? So strange. Anyway, Hare Krishna, can't get distracted by some measly machine. Okay, let's have some reflections and
in verse 136, I think, Maharaj, there was one sentence.
As Rajalakshmi is speaking.
Sorry, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. In 136 verse, the commentary it said that the gopis went to where Krishna is with the inner vehicle of their minds, which I felt was very, very sweet. As to
Very sweet.
Yes.
We all know what it means. Sometimes we have something on our minds, and whatever we do, we can't quite get into it, or, you know, or in our dream, we can go in an instant to some place we want to go to, or do something we want to do. You know, the mind is, of course, the gopis' minds are not like our minds. You know, our minds are separated energy of Krishna. The mind is different than the body is different than the intelligence, and like that. But in the spiritual world, all the forms and all the aspects of the forms are made of Satchidananda. Just like our forms are made of earth and water and fire and air and bone, and bone specialists know all about it, and, you know, mind and intelligence and false ego. But in the spiritual world, the forms are made of Satchidananda. Just as our forms are made of all these separated energies, all the forms there are made of Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Therefore, their minds are exactly the same as them. So they have the capacity to do that more than we do, even in our, whatever, perfectional kind of stage. Crazy thing, stupid thing. Somebody else. Yeah, Chakradhari.
Sorry, Maharaj. I was just wondering how there is a description of gopis doing their duties on a daily basis, but yet how they were focusing so much on Krishna's pastimes and names. I was wondering about the application of that. As you said, gopis are gopis. I mean, they are the topmost. I was wondering if you could give
An analogy?
An analogy as well as how does it apply to us as you know, jobs or whatever. I think it's not only necessarily to me, but where do we? I mean, we were talking about this yesterday with Shyam Kishore Prabhu yesterday. How can you chant Hare Krishna and yet, you know, keep focused?
Hand me a Gita. I mean, Krishna gives, and Prabhupada in the purport gives kind of like the secret to this in the 18th chapter, 57th verse. 57. I know this doesn't completely answer the question, but it gives you a hint, right? The Sanskrit word matpada is very important in this verse. The verse is Chetasa sarvakarmani mayi sanyasya matpadaha buddhi yogam upashritya machchita satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Like Arjuna, Krishna told him, you go out and fight. And he didn't want to at first, but finally he decided, yes, I'm convinced. And he did that. It's not that when he was fighting, he was just saying, of course he had Krishna right standing next to him. That was a little special situation for him. But if Krishna's in the mind while you're doing those things, it's the same. We know sometimes we'll be absorbed in something and something else may be able to going on, and we're just there, yes, that's right. But in the mind, we're thinking of something else. That's the principle. But also this principle that Prabhupada says. He says, a servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, then how one should act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matparaha is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. That's the key. Whatever you're doing, I've been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. And furthermore, it doesn't mean that one can't do the thing, even if very delicate things you do are so crucial and so require such concentration. But if you start the thing by thinking, Krishna has appointed me to do this, I must do it nicely for Krishna, and then do it. That's as good as thinking of Krishna. And of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a very far out analogy. This may be a little shocking, but just as a woman who has a paramour, while she's doing her house cleaning, she does it better than she does. She's just thinking, when am I going to meet him? When am I going to meet him? Same idea. In a very advanced stage, it's possible to do two things at once in the mind and with the body. But that's a very advanced stage.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I was just thinking about how you're saying about very advanced stage, you could do body and mind. I was thinking, sorry if this is just completely stupid and irrelevant, but car driving, for instance, when you start driving a car to
automatic
begin with, you are so focused, and then gradually you just get. So I guess it is a matter of practice and of course mercy of Guru and Gauranga.
That's right.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's how sadhana bhakti goes into spontaneous love. It's not that you have to give up one to get the other. That is a misconception. It's coming from the sahaja line of misconception. It's called apasampradaya. No, sadhana bhakti gives you spontaneous love. And when you're in spontaneous love, you still perform externally the sadhana bhakti. Sentimentalism, to think otherwise. Do we have anything from cyberspace out there? Devotees are tuning in.
From Gopakanya Devidasi. Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj and old friends, happy Mother's Day to you all.
Hare Krishna. Happy Mother's Day to you.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada and your transcendental daily readings, Maharaj. Rati Manjari said, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Rati. Happy Mother's Day.
Anandamochi Devi Dasi. Jai Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's reading. Gopis are always engaging in Sankirtan, remembering Krishna in their heart. Thank you so much.
Very nice, Anandamurti. That's a very nice analogy, because you were out distributing books. You can't help but think of Krishna.
From Rati Manjari. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a point which I hope I can find the right words to express. Tonight I was touched by hearing that Sri Krishna feels obligated to tend to his duties of taking care of the cows. I often feel encumbered by my duties, and I dream of having more time for more direct engagement in preaching, Sankirtan, etc. But when I heard that even Lord Krishna feels obligated to perform his duties and is the supreme, it gives me the indication that to be under a certain type of obligation is simply a part of life, which I need to surrender to.
Well, this is going to bridge the gap between what Chakradhari asked and what Rati just asked. It's an answer to a question that Prabhupada gave to a new mother in Los Angeles when devotees were just starting to get married. At first, most of us were all single and, whatever. So there was this one young lady who had just had a baby, and Prabhupada was there. And at the end of the lecture, she asked this question. She said, Srila Prabhupada, I now have this child, this baby, and I can no longer do direct service the way I used to. So should I organize my life in such a way as that I can do more direct service? And Prabhupada didn't even hesitate for a second. He said, no. Just become Krishna conscious. Because in Krishna consciousness, there is no such thing as direct and indirect. That's what's being said here. The Gopi, there's no difference between direct and indirect for the Gopis, because they're doing everything, but they're doing everything completely for Krishna. How? By constantly chanting their glories. That's why Prabhupada, whenever he was talking about pure devotional service, he always talked about hearing and chanting. Just what we're doing now. Who can say in this room or out in cyberspace that when we're hearing absorbed like this, that everything else just goes out the window? Even teasing between siblings. It's going... I know. I notice everything. I can't help it. I'm cursed, I can't help it. What else?
Sudevi Dasi said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, glories to this daily reading, my lifeline.
Hare Krishna, thank you. It's my lifeline to give them. Thank you very much, everyone. We were a little late today starting, but we ended a little late and made up for it. And these readings, these last part of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta is the creme de la creme de la creme that we've always been talking about lately. This doesn't get any better than this. It's Sanatana Goswami having just heard for 2 months straight directly from Lord Chaitanya, and he's now flowing. It's all flowing out of him, Lord Chaitanya's teachings. And he blessed Sanatana Goswami that you'll be able to realize it and express it. By Krishna's mercy, we can do anything. But we have to be fully surrendered. Shri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Prem Anandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same topic. here in Nilachal. Hare Krishna. See you then.